Welcome to Panim Satar Parshas Boy. We'll start with something a little bit about Shavim, a nice remes for Shavim from the Chamer Tava. Chamer Tava was the barn of a Rav. His name was Avram Simcha ben Rabbeinu Moshe of Barnov. Barn of a Rav is a very important personality in my life, just because I found the Sefer many years ago in the Satmar based medrash in Monticello, and I opened up. I really enjoyed it, and I see he's quoting from a Sefer called Imrei Noyam, his uncle, the Imrei Noyam.
Whose uncle? I'm sorry.
His uncle was the Imrei Noyam,
Is this
the Barn of Arav, the Sefer Chamer Tava, right? Rav Simcha Barnev. I opened the Sefer, and he's constantly quoting from his uncle, the Imrei Noyam. Right, the Barn of Rav's name was Rabbi Simcha Horowitz. His father's name was Rav Moshe, and his father was Rabbi Eliezer Jikover. And so his father, Moshe Barnev, had a brother, the Meir Rameir ben Rabbi Eliezer ben Rabbi Naftali Tzvi Rapshitz, right, Horowitz, Brother Rapshitz. So through the Charmetava, I got introduced to the Imrei Noyam.
The son-in-law of the Bnei.
Who?
No, I'm sorry, of the Imrei Noyam.
Yeah.
The son-in-law, the first vision to Rebbe.
I don't know. I don't remember now. I don't know. I probably saw it once upon a time, but I don't know.
I remember something.
So probably not the son of the first vision to Rebbe, but maybe. So anyway, so the Barn Rav, he was a Rav of a large Hasidus in Poland, the Barn of Poland, and he moved to Eretz Yisrael in the early 1900s, and he was from the big Rebbes in the early 1900s. His base medrash was actually on Rechaim, I think Zonnefeld, right near the Mir Yeshiva. His base medrash is still in existence. It's an old building. That was the Barn of base medrash, like right over there where we lived. And he was from the personalities of the early 1900s. He was considered from the big Mekubalim, and so when he says something, he's not just making things up. He says a beautiful remez in this week's parsha. He says this week's parsha, Parshas Bo, has in it the Makav Bard, or that was actually last week's parsha. This is Arbe. It's like Noisa Kal Yerek Bates, right? There wasn't any Yerek left over on any of the trees after Arbe came. So he says we're holding Shavim, and the months of Shavim are always these parshas, and the month of Shavim are always in the Chadashim of Tevis and Shvat. So he says Merum is the tikkun of Shavim in this possible. Noisa Kal Yerek Bates. He says Yerek is Eis Kuf Reish Yud, right? He says there's not left over any pigam of Yerek, but eight is referencing the chadashim of Tevis and Shvat, because in Sefer Yitzira, right, the Hakadosh Baruch was Himlech Eis Ayin be Tevis and Eif Tzadi be Shvat. I was trying to check my speech before. I didn't take it Sefer Yitzira, but what happened to pay? The answer is that pay is from the Isis Hadigushai. So the way it's divided up is the Yud Beis Chadashim are connected to the Yud Beis Isis Pshutais. But then you have Bagad, Kaparas, those are Isis that are called Degushais, and they don't have months connected them. Those are connected the 7 days of the week. Right? And then you have Isis, Aleph, Mem, and Shin, Emesh, which are connected Eish, Ruach, and Mayim. Okay, so you have the Yisaitis, you have the days of the week, and the 12 months all have kaichas in the Chaf Beis Isis the Torah. So that's what he says, that because Hayais, Tavis, and Shvat has in it the Yemei Shavim, and he also says Kol Yerek is Begamatcha Shavim. He says Leinoisa Kol Yerek Beitz in these Chadashim, because of all the Mitzvot Hakadoshim get a complete tikkun in the Chadashim of Tavis and Shvat through the Avodah of Shavim. Shavim is an acronym for Shmais Ba'era Bay B'Shalach Yisrael Mishpatim. And these weeks of the year, and the years that there's a Iber that there's 2 others, it's called Shavim Tat, that Truman Tetzava also included in the special tikkunim that are meant to go on during that time of the year. And those tikkunim have to do with Klal Yisrael cleaning up their act and becoming more halig, be matar themselves, purifying themselves, and becoming more kaddish. And um, it has very much to do with the whole. You read this Mitzrayim. What was Mitzrayim? Klal Yisrael went to Mitzrayim to get purified. Right? Hashem sent Klal Yisrael to Mitzrayim. Right? Not because Hashem was mean. Right? Klal Yisrael needed purification, and the purification came through the Avodah Mitzrayim, and the Avodah Mitzrayim and the Geula of Mitzrayim is one big purification process. So these parshas in the Torah, when we learn them, that's where when you learn a parsha, you're really living the parsha, and therefore we're living the tikkun of the Shibud Mitzrayim, and when a person struggles, what does a person feel like when he struggles, and he sticks to his emunah, and he just puts one foot in front of the next. That's the greatest purity of a person, right? You're getting purer and purer. Right? A person not capitulating, not just throwing in the towel. He's forging ahead, and what's happening is he's getting purified from all his efforts, and that's what the avodah of is very specific for this time of year of Shayv Tat, which corresponds to the what Klal Yisrael went through Mitzrayim.
Could it be called a kapara? As a client, you said
it's a man for kapara, yeah. It's man kapara tikkunim, yeah, yeah.
The whole Mitzrayim.
Yeah, that's Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is, yeah, you can call it kapara tikkun, right? That's really was Mitzrayim. Right? We mentioned this point many times in the past, that if you can't understand the value of the Golos Mitzrayim, so it's very hard to rationalize the celebration of the Gula from Mitzrayim, because Hashem put us into Mitzrayim. If that was pointless, right? Then taking us out was, you put us in, you took us out, right? The mashal I've given many times in the past. If you have a guy punching you in the face, and then I stop punching you in the face, right? Are you going to start thanking me for stopping to punch you in the face? No, you say, why are you punching me in the face to begin with, right? Right. So Hashem put the Yidden into Golos, and he took them out of Golos, right? We saw, thank you for taking us out of Golos, right? Why'd you put us there in the first place? The Torah says, when you get taken out of Golos and you realize you've been purified from the Golos, and you look at yourself in the mirror, and you see a perfectly developed neshama from all the Avodah and all the Mesiras Nefesh and all that moon that was developed in the Golos, and the Achdas of Klal Yisrael developed, and you see a whole ummah, a whole nation that was developed, was forged from this Golos. They became an ummah from it. Now they became right to be Kabbalah. Now you thank Hashem for the Gula. You put us there, you formed us, you solidified us, right? You forged us in the fire, right? The Korah Barzel, and now you took us out. And that's really what's going on every year. Every year we're meant during these weeks of the year to solidify ourselves, and the tikkunim have to be with developing emuna, and recognizing by just being focused on emuna and ignoring all the nisyanis of life, we get purified. When how do you purify how do you purify silver, right? You take silver out of the ground, right? It's probably 25% silver. The rest of it's, I don't know, mercury, nickel, aluminum. What's the content of silver nuggets? He said you burn it out, then you melt away all the sigim, all the psilocybin left with pure silver. That's what Klal Yisrael. That's what happened to Klal Yisrael in Mitzrayim. They went from being unpurified gold and silver, and they got purified by it, and they came out, shining from kedusha and ready to be Kabbalah Torah. So that was what they recognized, and that's what goes on this time of year. This time of year has in it a certain amount of nisyanis naturally, because you really feel like you're entering into the darkness of Golos with the cold and the darkness of the days. You know what I'm saying? And the cheer and gloom. And what does a person do when he has days of gloom and cold and rain and snow, right? Right? You develop Emunah. Baleilos is a time for Emunah, right? You jump into a mindset of Emunah. That's the only way to get there. What did you say?
Today he would come here.
Today would come here, right. So Baruch Hashem, we have people like Ari that inspire them to come, and Shimba makes it interesting to come, and that's what this man of the year is for, and that's what the Chaim tells us, Haftacha, that the Chadashim of the eights of Tavis and Shvatim are still for these tikkunim. When a person sushtels to these tikkunim in this man, he gets a special siyata d'shmayim. Tonight,
really?
Yeah, that's what it's
about. You can't say that about all times of year.
Every time of year has its unique koyach to connect to, right? So you start shaking your lulav on Pesach, it's not going to do much, but on Sukkot it does an amazing amount of tikkunim. Right. You know what I'm saying? So this is a time of year to think about Amunah, to think about, yes, it's dark, it's cold, and I'm not so sure I want to get out of bed in the morning, but I'm going to go and I'm going to light up the world anyway. You know what I'm saying? And that's
Since you mentioned age, the shortest we have two Shvat, so
yeah.
trees are connected here also.
Right, there you go. Very good.
That's why in two Shvat, the new step starts coming.
Very good. Very good. That's right. The Chaydish.
Two Shvat is when they say the trees start getting the new saps, produce a new fruit, and
And according to Beis Shammai, Tu B'Shvat is on Rosh Chodesh Shvat, where the Ayin and the Tzadi meet. Interesting, no? That's a good track. Yishmak Pshat. Thank you for being married. That. Okay. Tonight is the yard site of the Sfas Emes Harav Aryeh Yehuda.
I'm sorry, what was the Tzadi?
Yehuda Ayin Chodesh Tevis every month has a corresponding letter in the Aleph base for it. There are 12 letters in the Aleph base. There's 22 letters, but 12 of them correspond to the months. Okay? Every month of the year has a letter from the Aleph base that corresponds to it. There are 12 letters in the Aleph base that correspond to the 12 months. There are another 10 letters that correspond to other things, but as far as corresponding to the month, you have 7 letters correspond to the days of the week, 12 letters correspond to the month, and 3 letters correspond to the Yisodis of Eish, Ruach, and Mayim. Okay, those are the main Yisodis: fire, water, and wind. Those are the main kaichas. Everything in the world up here Chazal is made up of 4 Yisodis: Eish, Ruach, and Mayim, because Afar is not a pile, it's a Mikabel. So we describe the active, the Eish, Ruach, and Mayim are the active ones, and Afar, which is the 4th Yisod, this is the Yisod Afar, is the more dormant one. It takes on the kaichas of the Eish, Ruach, and Mayim. So you have the 3 Yisodos, the 7 days of the week, and the 12 months of the year are equals 20. That's 22, and they're connected 22 letters of the Aleph base. When you go through it, the way it works is Nisan, Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet are accounted for. Aleph is Eish, Beis, Gimel, Dalet are connected Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Hey is Nisan. So Hey, Vav, Zayin, Ches, Tes. When you get to Ayin, right? That's Shvat, and Tzadi is Ayin is Tevis, and Shvat, and Tzadi is Shvat. The Pei is from corresponds to the day of the week. It's Bagad, Beis Gimel Dal, Kaparas, Chaf Pei Reish Saf are connected the 7 days of the week. Okay, so Meili said like this: Tu B'Shvat is we celebrate the trees, Rosh Hashanah Ilonai. So Elon is called an eights, right? Isn't it interesting? In Shvat is where you have, we just said Tevis and Shvat spells eights, Ayin Tzadi. Right, so the letters that correspond to Tevis and Shvat actually spell out the 8th, which is we found Tu B'Shvat is Rosh Hashanah Lilanis. I said according to Beis Shammai holds Tu B'Shvat is Rosh Chodesh Shvat, right? So what's Rosh Chodesh Shvat? It's the connecting point between Tu B'Shvat is Rosh Chodesh Shvat. We said Rosh Hashanah Lilanis is Rosh Chodesh Shvat. There's no Tu B'Shvat according to Beis Shammai. There's only Aleph Shvat, Rosh Chodesh Shvat. Okay, and at Rosh Chodesh Shvat, what is that day? That is a connector. That is the hinge between Tevis and Shvat, right? At Rosh Chodesh is where the 2 months collide. When the 2 months collide, you have an ayin of Tevis collides with a tzadi of Shvat. What do you got at that connecting point? 8. Okay, according to Beis Shammai, Rosh Hashanah Lilanis really fits in at a perfect point where ayin and tzadi connect. What do you get? A tree. Yeah. Okay. So tonight is the yard site of the Sfas Emes, Rabbeinu Yehuda Aryeh Leib, the grandson of the Chidushah, Rib Ben Rab. His father's name was.
Who's the Imri Amos?
Imri Amos is his son. So Sfas Emes is yard site. Tonight we'll say about the first shtickle of Sfas Emes over here. It's actually the concept is a very famous concept, and the Chidusharim talks about it. The Maral Be'emes talks about it, and he says as follows. He's actually quoting from his grandfather, the Chidusharim. Adayni Abi Zikni Moivi Rabbi. He said as follows. Now, why did the Mitzrayim need to have 10 makkos? What's a magic number of 10? So he says that you're right. It corresponds to Seres Dibros. We're going to get to that, but we're going to start before Seres Dibros. He says like this: Parai is a klipa. Power is a koyach hatuma. What does the koyach hatuma do? Koyach hatuma has the ability to camouflage, to be mastered, to hide kedusha. Right? What does the Yitzhar do? Right? You wake up in the morning and flashing through your brain is thank you Hashem, right? Thank you so much, I'm alive, right? I'm gonna take over the world. Thank you Hashem. I'm gonna get Olam Haba. A minute later, the Yitzhar says, forget Olam Haba. Go pull out your smartphone. There's so much to do, right? And before you know it, and you forget that there's an Olam Haba, right? So you say literally, he's master. He's master of kedusha. That's what the klipa does. What is kedusha? Kedusha is what is the real kedusha in the world? The kedusha is embedded into the world because Basar Mamaris Nevrailam Hakadosh Baruch Hu created the world with 10 Mamaris. Bereshis Bar Elikim, right? That's Vayomer. In Parshas Bereshis, it says Vayomer Elikim Yiyar. Every time it says Vayomer in Brias Olam, in the beginning of Bereshis, that is a command of Hashem for the world to be created. Vayom Hashem Yiyar, Vayom Hashem Yiyar keeps the Chamayim. Vayom Hashem Tachar Asdesha. Right, every time, right? Vayom Hashem He Maris B'Kir Shemayim. Every time Hashem created something during the 7 days of creation, 6 days of creation, He said Vayomer. And so there are 10 times Hashem said Vayomer. We have questions whether there are 10 times, but basically there are 10 times it says Vayomer that Hashem created, and these are
every time He said Vayomer.
Yeah, Maimer is Lashon Vayomer, right? Hashem's Maimer. Right, so it says Asar Ma'amarish Behem Nivra Olam. That is the kedusha of the world, right? Because Hashem is kedusha. His mimer, his deeper of Hashem is nothing more than Hashem's kedusha, right? It's a I'm not sure how to say it. It's a what? Expression. It's an extension. It's a hashpah of a Kadosh Baruch's kedusha. It's a manifestation of a Kadosh Baruch's kedusha to somehow form a world. So when you have the Asar Mamaris in the world that are intact, you walk outside and you see the sky, and you see Hashem's Maimer Yirikib Zeichamayim, right? You see the grass and trees, you see and you see a Maimer of Hashem Tachar Asdesha. It's just screaming at Kadosh Baruch Hu's presence. Comes along the klipa, the Koyach Hatuma, it's master all this. So the Koyach Hatuma, which is Mitzrayim, the Gresta klipa, right, in the world at that point. And no doubt nowadays it's probably closer to Brooklyn than to Egypt, and probably very close to Brooklyn. I'm thinking like maybe downtown Brooklyn, or maybe Manhattan, maybe I don't know, maybe. It's master, right? It comes and it's master all this kedusha. Okay, so what is the idea of Asar Makas? Asar Makas is to remove the 10 hesterim. There's 10 maimarim that are being nistar, that are being covered up, 10 expressions of HaKadosh Baruch's kedusha that are being denied by the klipa, right, by the tumah, by mitzvayim, and you have to remove each one. Okay, so the makkah is whacking away the Yitzhar, who's covering the eyes of or covering the covering the kedusha. Don't look. And so you give a whack, and all of a sudden, 10 makas, 10 whacks is migal v'asam marsha b'hem nivrayim. Okay, that's what the Chedusha Risha says. That's what Sfas Emes brings down. He says. He's marchiv on this, sort of like I was explaining. He says, I say, when a person has the eyes to see, you see the chiyus of the whole world is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? You clearly see that the only reason why this table exists is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving chiyus to wood and giving chiyus to metal and giving chiyus to these atoms to be held together. I remember when I was a kid, my father told me over from some scientists that said scientifically, if you could take all the energy out of the world and just be left with bare matter, the true matter, I don't know what this means, but he says you could take the entire world and put it into a teaspoon. That's what he said. I don't know. He says that, but that's the idea. The idea is, what is the world? It's nothing, right? It's atoms, right? And every atom is energy holding what? Little thread somehow, and it somehow takes on a form. It's 999%, right? Energy, chiyas, and the actual particles is nothing. If you could somehow remove all the chiyas, you'd be left with it. That's what he said. I don't know. He said it from a scientist. I don't know. You could put the entire matter of the earth in a teaspoon, right? So what does that mean? What is that chiyas? Right? That chiyas HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu's chiyas, right? And when you could perceive that chiyas as chiyas and perceive it as HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the whole world is just screaming HaKadosh Baruch Hu's chiyas. And so this is the Nisai day, the Sitrach, and every Makkah is removing this. He says once you have that Mamoris or Nizgala, once there's Makkahs, and you have the Asar Mamoris being Nizgala, the Maimer now takes on a new form. It's revealed. Once it's revealed, once the Maimer is revealed, once the Maimer is revealed, it takes on a new Tachas at this point. It becomes the second stage. The Maimer turns into a Dibur. What does a Dibur mean? Well, he says Asar Mamaris turn into Asar Dibrais. That's Asar Dibrais. Why? Because what is a Dibrais? What is a Dibur? A Dibur is a lashon of something that that um, leads you, right? A leader is called a daber echaladar, vein shnei dabar ladar. Lashon daber is someone that leads. So once the mamaros are in his gala, then they automatically lead you. They direct you how to serve Hashem, right? Once you clearly see everything is Hashem, okay, now they automatically tell you, okay, this mimer of Bereshit Bar Kim is on Hashem Lekecha. Hashem's everything, right? And etc. However, the Asar Mamars and the difference, huh? Right, because it pushes, right? Because it directs, right? Mimer is more R, it's more chesed, and then when it's mitzamtzim, where it comes to tell you how to direct you, that's secondary. Once you understand Hakadosh Baruch Hu is everywhere, then all of a sudden the next step is these mamarim turn into deeper. He says, this is what the pasuk says, "V'dibar tabam b'shiftcha v'secha," is he says is that everything that you're doing in your house should be led by Torah. Okay, v'dibar tabam is that everything, even sitting in your house, should all be right. You call myself Shem Shemayim, right? Shemani kol masav al pi divrei Hashem Yisbarach. He says, as he says, this is a pirush, bidvarai mariv aravim. Right? He says that dvarai is again, even mitoich the Hester asher bidvarai mariv aravim. I'm not sure how he's touching it. Bidvar Marvarav, Bechinas Hamalchus Shemai Lios Kavit Shmai Gam Betoich Ha'irov Vahester Ayidei Emuna. Emes Ve'emuna Arvis. I guess Asher Bidvari Marvarav mean with the leadership of Emuna and HaKadosh Baruch Hu's mitzvahs, that's how we get through the darkness of night. He says this is a pshat that the Zohar says ve'era. In Zohar said Parshas ve'era. What was the galus? The galus was that the dibur wasn't galus, meaning there was no ability for Klal Yisrael to be led by the mamar because there was a hester in the mamar. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu said. La ish dvar manachi. Right? It's not. There's no dibur now. The dibur's in galus. Right? By Kabbalah Satire was niskal lebechinas hadibur. He brings down a measure. This week Parshas says as a. Hashem tells Moshe to come to Parai. The pasuk in Mishlei says, "Kaved even v'neita achal v'kas evil kaved mishneim." He said rocks are heavy, right? And a whole package of sand is very heavy. The kas evil kaved mishneim, but the kas, the difficulty, the destructive feelings that an evil person makes is heavier than everything. So the Medrash describes that Kilo, there's something that stares at Kadosh Baruch Hu. There's something miyagei Kadosh Baruch Hu. What's miyagei Kadosh Baruch Hu? Right? Is Yagi of Hakadosh Baruch Hu is when his maimarim are being nistar. The Rishon, the mitzvah in this week's parsha, right? The Kach Satuma that our master Kadosh Baruch Hu's Kadosh Baruch Hu's are. So he says that So the whole week, not just okay. So that's what's going on in Mitzrayim. Power is being master everything, and Kiyos makes the Yigiyah to Hakadosh Baruch Hu. It's master Hakadosh Baruch Hu. It makes the Yigiyah to him, and he says that master means that high to Hakadosh Baruch Hu's here. So he says like this that the whole week is there's Yigiyah going on. The whole week has in a bechina of Hester. There's Hester part of the whole week, and that's why there's Yigiyah. The Mamaros of Hakadosh Baruch Hu are less megula during the week. When you say Shabbos ba menucha, there's no more Yigiyah anymore. Why? Because in Shabbos Kodesh, all the Kedusha of Kadosh Baruch Hu is inspired to the whole world. Maybe that's why it describes the lashon menucha, right? Because Shabbat Shabbos we call malachta. There's no the Hakadosh Baruch Hu made it. And a Shabbos, the hysterium of the Golos, the hysterium Kaychas Atumah aren't Shabbos for Shabbos. Mela, there's no Yigiyah lefonav, and therefore it's kula menucha, menucha to Hakadosh Baruch Hu, and menucha to Klal Yisrael. Not